Hey folks, and welcome to Typology, the show in which we explore the mystery of the human personality through the lens of the Enneagram. I'm Anthony Skinner, producer of the show, and we are happy to have you here with us today. Before I get to our guest, I want to let you know that we are thrilled to announce that Typology podcast is hitting the road. Join Ian and myself for the first ever live recording of Typology at the Balboa Theater in San Diego on March 21st, 2020. Hey, that's coming up, folks. It's going to be a really fun night with some surprise guests that we're excited to announce very soon. Tickets are already on sale at typologypodcast.com. That's TYPOLOGY podcast.com. So go there and get your tickets today. Also, be sure and follow us on social media. That's at Typology Podcast and at Ian Morgan Cron. Okay, let's get to our guest. Today, we have Jennie Allen, who is the founder and visionary of the well-known IF Gathering, which is actually coming up here very soon. Jennie is a sought-after speaker. She has taught at Women of Faith, Catalyst, and Q conferences. She's the author of several books, including Restless, Anything, Nothing to Prove, and her brand new book, Get Out of Your Head, Stopping the Spiral of Toxic Thoughts, which just released on January 28th. So be sure and grab that. She is also host of the podcast titled Made for This. She is an Enneagram 7. Can't wait till you hear from her today, so let's get on with it. And now, let's join Jennie Allen and the host of our show, Ian Cron.
Jennie Allen, welcome to Typology.
Great to be here, Ian.
I am so excited to be having this conversation with you today for a number of reasons. One, I love sevens.
Oh, good. Yes.
Yay for the enthusiasts.
Yes.
The second reason is because of the title of your new book, which is Get Out of Your Head, Stopping the Spiral of Toxic Thoughts. And the reason I'm excited about it is I think we've been reading a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
And
did you look at my sources?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
And so this conversation around neuroplasticity,
yes.
Cognitive behavioral therapy, this is all in my wheelhouse. So we're going to have fun, I think.
Oh, I can't wait.
I also think we've shared a stage at Catalyst. Is that right?
Yes, maybe so. I'm trying to think where I've met you more than once, but yes. I mean, I've been at Catalyst a few times and probably met you in that green room.
Probably, although those are always nerve-wracking moments in those, at least for me. For some people, it seems like it's another walk in the park. But when I got to speak in front of 8,000 people, I tend to be a little tense.
Hey, but I bet there's more than 8,000 people listening right now. So you just have to think of it like that.
Yeah, but they're not here in the studio staring at me and judging me to my face. So that's probably a better thing. So first of all, before we jump into this whole topic of toxic thoughts and getting out of our heads and freeing ourselves from self-limiting stories, right, that we begin to launch in our minds, this is a struggle for everybody, regardless of type. Tell us about your Enneagram journey.
So I feel like I heard about it even before your book, The Road Back to You, came out. And I say that timing because really I didn't understand it until I read your book. That was really my first in-depth deep dive into it. But I heard about it prior. And I think the first friend that told me about it, when I heard about it, I was like, woo, but at the same time, I was fascinated. And we were walking around the lake in Austin, Texas, and she just started saying how it had changed her life. And she started diagnosing me. And a lot of people, of course, in those early years before I had read your book, were diagnosing each other. And everybody diagnosed me the same. It is not what I actually am, but I continually was diagnosed as a certain number. And when I read your book, I think it was the first time I really wanted to take the test because I read it and I did not relate to the 3. Really, it was 3. That was the one I was constantly diagnosed as. And I'm slightly scared, Ian. Because here I am, like, I don't know. Like, I'm going to tell you, I have limited knowledge about this. My sister actually leads people through the Enneagram. They work out at a ranch called Lost Valley Ranch, and she takes her team through it. She takes guests through it. And so she is the expert. I called her right before this because I was just nervous. I was like, I think this is what I am. So, we'll see. You can do therapy on me here. But because everybody diagnosed me at 3. And I think it's because I do accomplish so much, but all of my weaknesses, all of my motivation for that accomplishment, everything resonated when I got to the 7. And so when I read the 7, I got online and took the test, and of course tested a 7, 3, and then an 8.
Yes.
And so because 7 and 8 were both on there, I thought that is really where I'm going to choose, because I relate most and because I see a wing that's pretty obvious. So
yeah, normally when people tell me that they're uncertain of their type, and they tell me that they either test or from their reading, they think they're one of 2 numbers that are side by side, I zero in on that first, because oftentimes people have either identified as their wing, or they've accurately self-identified as their actual type. It doesn't mean you're not a 3. It's just that's where my attention migrates first. Is okay, there's a 7, 8. Chances are that's core type or wing. We're just not sure in which direction yet. 3, 7s, and 8s are in what's called the assertive stance. So,
oh, shoot.
Yeah, those 3 numbers are the most assertive. Sometimes people will use the word aggressive, but that doesn't mean in the negative sense of the word. It just means that 3, 7s, and 8s, when they want something, they just go and get it or ask for it. They're just very bold.
That's about right.
I'm a 4. That is, I have a very strong 3 wing, and I've learned how to go and ask for what I want or for what I need very directly. But it's not, I have to burn more calories than a 3, 7, or 8 to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that's pretty much my mojo. I mean, I think I still operated, when I look back at my life, I think growing up, I definitely had a desire to please my dad. Like, I look back and see a lot of woundedness that I related to in the 3. But if I take out my woundedness, if I take out, the broken parts, and I just look at like clearly how I was always motivated, how my brain worked, my creativity, my inability to sit still. If I look at that, even as a child, I think I still relate more to the 7.
Right. Well, you're the only one who can discern and tell others your type.
Okay.
A lot of people in their enthusiasm will try to help, quote unquote, air quotes, others determine their type. And often, because many of them are newcomers to the system, they mistype somebody, and it's not helpful. Okay,
so let me tell you why, the main reason I'm going to land with 7, and I have, and it has helped my team at work. It has helped everybody so much with understanding me. And so I'm going to stay there with 7. But the reason at the deciding point that I chose 7 was because I was motivated more by sucking the marrow out of life and meaning than I was what everybody thought. I'm not saying I don't care what other people think, but when I think of my own motivation for what I do and why I do what I do, it isn't to get applause, and it isn't so that everybody notices. And I don't feel a lot of, pride or excitement when they do. What I feel is, did it matter? Is it going to matter for the long term? Did it help? Those are the questions I'm constantly asking myself. And so that to me fit more, even though I accomplish a lot, that to me was really the deciding factor.
So the unconscious motivation of the 3 is a compulsive need to succeed, to have others see them as a success, and to avoid failure at all costs.
I don't feel that way.
Okay. For the 7, it's a need to avoid pain and deprivation, and the way the sort of the strategy for avoiding pain and deprivation is continually looking to the future for unlimited possibilities of always thinking about the next.
7. Okay, I don't need you to go any further. That is me to a fault. My kids are like, Mom, why do you have to talk about the future all the time? And it's true. And I'm like an eternal optimist, and I always believe the best. And I'm like, we can save this. This can work. Like, problems are my greatest friend because we can overcome something or triumph. Like I have a weird fast. And what do problems do? They bring change, So I'm someone, and I have enough 8 that I'm not afraid of conflict. I'm not afraid to, for it to be messy or hard. So yeah. And I'm an ADD diagnosed creative. So, the next project is, I'm hoping you can just fix me. Like you can tell me, Ian, like what I need to do because I have all of the dark side of 7 for sure.
Well, as is true with every type, we all have a dark side, right? We all have a shadow that requires us to become self-aware of it and to mitigate the really dark side of the type so that the best part of who we are comes to the fore without hindrance.
Yeah.
And, 7s are awesome. My son is a 7. My son-in-law is a 7. I adore 7s. When you all are healthy, you bring so much juice to life. I mean, it's just you're juicy people. That's a good word for you all. You come in a room and you're activators. You make people. You bring an optimism that inspires other people. They begin to believe. All the possibilities for a future that they didn't see but you did, right? And so, I mean, you all bring so much to the table, but like every other type, you just want to make sure that you're aligned with the best side of your type, not the one that's going to get you into trouble.
Yeah. Yes.
So
I'm going to wait for a question there.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
I'm not going to volunteer all my trouble
yet.
I'm
a little worried about something you said earlier. Hey, Typology Tribe, I want to take a moment to thank one of our sponsors for helping us bring you what I hope is great content every week. Now, you all know, obviously, I'm a psychotherapist, and so I'm a big proponent of counseling. So, whether you feel like something is interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving certain goals, counseling is a great tool to help identify what those blocks are and then work through them. Yet, and I think probably many of you know this, finding a therapist can sometimes feel intimidating. Here comes the good news. BetterHelp offers online counseling at your own time and your own pace. You can schedule secure video or phone sessions plus text and chat with your therapist when it's convenient for you. That's huge, right? These are licensed professional counselors who specialize in things like depression, anxiety, stress, relationships, LGBT matters, trauma, and grief. BetterHelp has counselors available worldwide and have over 3,000 U.S. licensed therapists across all 50 states. And get this, if you're not satisfied with your counselor for any reason, you can request a new one at any time at no additional cost. Best of all, it's a truly affordable option. And as a special offer for Typology listeners, BetterHelp is offering 10% off your first month with the discount code Typology Podcast. So why not get started today? Go to BetterHelp.com/TYPOLOGYPODCAST. Simply fill out a questionnaire to help them assess your needs and get matched with a counselor you will love. Again, that's BetterHelp.com/Typology Podcast, TYPOLOGYPODCAST. BetterHelp.com/Typology Podcast. Check them out. I'm a little worried about something you said earlier, which is like you were nervous about coming on because people had said you were going to get some therapy in the process. And I was like, God, I hope I'm not getting a reputation for...
Well, and if you know 7s, I don't want that. I'm like, oh, you're going to make me talk about my dark side.
Yeah.
But I will say that is my favorite thing about the Enneagram, if we're still on the journey part of this, is that it has reframed and changed the way that I work. It has retrained and changed the way I parent, that I'm married, our weekend plans. I mean, my husband is a 3. That's another reason I know I'm not. And every weekend he would say, okay, like here's the list of projects we're going to do this weekend. And all I wanted to do was have fun. I was like, I've worked all week. All I want to do is have fun. And we would fight. Oh my gosh, we would fight about the weekend. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm fine getting a few things done if there's a reward. Like if you can make a reward, if you can say, hey, I'll tell you what, we're going to clean out the garage, but then tonight we're going to go out with these two couple friends, and we're going to go to this great new restaurant. The lighting's really good there, and the music and the food, like all of that. I am in. And especially if it's a new restaurant. I love going to new restaurants. So,
oh man.
Anyway,
that's all. That's all 7 stuff, Jennie.
Oh, yeah. I know.
But I love talking about relationships with types, because here's where this gets really good. The 3 can help you focus and become more practically oriented, right? In terms of projects, how to see them through in a way that sometimes 7s get distracted, and they get 3/4 of the way through a project before they see another one that they go, ooh, it's shiny, oh, yeah. Right?
It's terrible. Yes. I actually launched an organization, and when I did it, one of my thoughts was, this could be my new shiny. This could be my way to create new shiny things forever in the same place. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like I realized I've got to have an environment where I can build things over and over and over again. And I can do the new things, but I'm not scattered in 12 different fields or 12 different places, but the energy can go in the same direction. And I think when I launched If Gathering, I thought this could be everything. This could be anything I want it to be. My heart and my passion is investing in this generation of women, but the means and the ways to do that change by the year, for sure by every 5 years or so. So it's been fun to kind of have a way to focus, mm-hmm. that all of this is in the same vein and it's going towards the same cause, but I can do and launch different things within it.
That's so good for a 7, because like, for example, I was speaking to the founder and CEO of a fairly large company the other day, and he said to me, at 5 years in, and this is a company with hundreds of millions of dollars in sales a year. And he said, about halfway into this 10-year, 15-year journey, I realized that I needed to hire a CEO. And I needed to step out of that role and sort of bring my particular gift set into new areas. And I thought, man, that's a smart 7, boy.
Okay, so I did that. That happened to me. We lead a team at If Gathering of 15 to 20 people, depending on the season, and I had to do this because I was the named CEO, and I got to a place where I was truly unhappy. Mm-hmm. And I went to a place called Patterson, which is like coaching, kind of life coaching and strat ops.
I know the Patterson group out in Colorado.
Okay. So I met with Pete Richardson. Right, yeah. And Pete, I showed up on the first day and he said, Jennie, what do you want to get from this? I was like, I want permission to quit. I said, I'm that burnout and I want to quit. And he said, okay, well, I've been with you for 5 minutes and I think I already know what's wrong with you, but we're going to go through the 3 days, we're going to do the process, but I bet you 99% that I'm right, but I'm not going to tell you what's wrong with you until the end. And so he calls it founder's syndrome, that I'm a typical creative, that, a lot of creatives are ADD, which I am, and a lot of creatives are 7s. And I'm your typical creative who created something that succeeded. And now you feel like you have to manage it and you're dying. Yes. And you're doing, you moved somewhere from the creativity to the management. And so it was the most freeing thing. It was so funny. I was so nervous to come back to my team because I was basically going to pull out of everything that I hated. And that felt selfish to me. That felt like I have my own, happiness above the organization, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. That was my fear. That was the lie that I was really living under, which is why I stayed in that, even though I knew I wasn't in my sweet spot, even though I knew it wasn't healthy and I wasn't happy. And so when I came back and told my whole team at the table, like what I'd learned, they all started laughing. And I said, so I'm going to hire an executive director and I'm going to pull back from that role. And I'm going to really enter as a creative and a visionary. And they all just were laughing. And they were like, Jennie, duh. Like, we know this is how you are. Like, this isn't news to us. And I'm so glad you know it now, like that you had to go away and get permission. But we support this 100%. And it has changed my life more than any other thing I've done in the last 10 years. Appointing executive directors over both ends of my ministry. So my writing, speaking, podcast, all of that is under one executive director. And my organization, my nonprofit, If Gathering, is under a new or different executive director. And they're both titled that. They both have, and they have all the power to run those two organizations. And I am so happy.
That is an awesome seven story. And it's a lesson for sevens. Because sometimes they get stuck in those roles and they're lousy managers. Generally, I'm not saying they all are, but most sevens are not good managers. Typically, one of the ways that sevens get into trouble in the workplace is when they get into leadership, what they tend to want to do is flatten the hierarchy because they don't want to be the boss. They want to be in a sort of a relationship with other people. Number one, where they don't have to bring the bad news, where they have to dim the shine because, it's like that's what sometimes CEOs have to do, right? So typically I tell a 7, go find a 3.
Yes.
Because they're much better managers. And another problem I think 7s get into is they begin to threaten the stability of the organization.
Oh, I would have.
Yeah, right.
I would have. I was on my way.
Well, you're bigger risk takers than a 3 is. You'll, especially if you have an 8-wing, you'll go out of you'll start to do stuff that when you have 20 people. Now you have 20 people with income and benefits and all kinds of things, and they want to protect stability, and you're coming in with new ideas that could really risk the organization's life, and that's where you start to run into problems oftentimes as 7 CEOs.
Yes, and I would say the best year of my leadership has been this last year, and I have just found more joy in it. It has not even been hard to let go. I still get to bring creativity and vision and ideas, and I get to see those visions realized, but I don't carry the weight of, do we have the money for this? And what is this going to cost our people resource-wise? And is that, I don't carry the weight of all that. They let me come in with my markers and they let me whiteboard up a storm. And then I get to walk out and they get to decide together, like, is this something we can do right now? Is this something we need to do in a year or further? And it's just, I love work again. I love it.
Hey everybody, one of the lessons I've learned over the years is that not everybody benefits from a traditional 50-minute counseling session. And this is why some people can go to couples therapy or personal counseling for a long time and never really get anywhere. This is why I'm such a believer of intensive counseling and my friends at Restoring the Soul in Colorado, created by my longtime friend Michael Cusick to help couples or individuals experience deep change in half-day blocks over 1 or 2 weeks. Now listen, if you can't wait months or years to get to the bottom of an issue or to experience breakthrough, you need to get in touch with my friend Michael and his extraordinary team of counselors at Restoring the Soul. If you're looking to get out of the rut you're in, but can't wait months or years, call Restoring the Soul today for a free consultation with Michael's staff. Call 303-932-9777 and learn how their intensive counseling process can help you. As a special bonus, just for Typology listeners, make sure to visit www.restoringthesoul.com/typology to download their PDF called 5 Ways Unaddressed Trauma May Be Derailing Your Relationships. Well, Jenny, you really described in a way that's, actually perfect, how a 7 needs to lead and how they need to set up organizations to succeed. Because if you don't, a lot of times, 7s will come into meetings with 50 ideas, and people of different types will hear that and think, oh, that's the plan. Well, that's not the plan. That's the 7 just ideating.
Oh, that would would happen all the time. And my poor sweet 6s and 3s and 1s, they would all like go and like try to figure it out. And they'd spend a week of their life. And then they'd come back to me and they'd say, Jennie, here's how we think maybe we can do it. And I had moved on.
Yes.
And I was like, y'all, that was just a brainstorm. I didn't mean for you to build out a business plan around it.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we want to do this. Do we want to do this? Because I'm so collaborative that sometimes I think that was another part that was so hard for my team was I have an 8. So everything I say, it's with great gumption and great authority. You know, like I say it so strong. And then I'll walk out of a room and of course they all think I mean it and that it's, you know, cement and like 10 commandments in the office, like put it up. And I'm thinking I was just verbally processing and I wanted y'all to push back and like tell me what you thought. And so I think one of the other helpful things in the Enneagram for me has just been realizing that 8 wing of mine and how, in fact, some people that have seen me with other 8s think I'm an 8 because when I get safe to where I can really spar and I know I'm not going to hurt that person, I mean, that part of me comes in really strong. And I think my team would just be overwhelmed with all of it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know how to take it. And I think us all understanding the Enneagram together, which I almost could tell you, I mean, there's 15 to 20 teammates and I can almost tell you what all of them are because we constantly use that language and it just gave us grace for each other. It gave us the ability to, rather than be annoyed that I was that kind of boss, once I was humble enough to say, you know what, I realize how this is hurting you and I realize what I'm doing. I think they could have the grace for me to let me still be me. And I think that's what I found this year is now that they know how to take me and that it's brainstorming and that I want their feedback and I want to be pushed back on, that I'm not an authoritative type of leader, that I'm a collaborative one. I think now they know better how to engage that.
Well, and again, the fact that you have humility is another sign of health because 7s don't typically have a lot of humility. I
don't know if everybody would say I did, but I think I have sobriety. You know,
right.
I think I'm clear about what I am and I'm clear about what I'm not. And that I don't have pride about that. Like I don't have an ego about what I'm not. I probably have an ego about what I am good at, but I don't think I have, I'm not afraid of my weakness. And I've seen God use that. I've seen God honestly use my weakness more than my strength. So I think I'm more at ease with my weakness than I used to be.
So you know what? A 7 who is not very self-aware, they tend to be narcissists and they tend to overestimate their gifts and intelligence. Oh. I know, but that's a 7 who just isn't very in touch with, those are 7s who suffer from reality recognition disorder. You know, it's like they just tend to think that they are a little superior to others in terms of intelligence and giftedness and in many ways, oftentimes they are, but they tend to think it and live out of that space more than they should.
And I would say on that level, I don't think I relate because, and maybe this is why I look like a 3 to people too, was I got thrown into the deep end of public ministry, writing, speaking, all of it. And it happened so fast. And I don't ever think, even still, that I feel equipped for it. Like, I think I constantly looking for approval in that way. Like, just, am I okay? Like, do I belong here? Is this, I think there's still like a fraud fear in me of, I mean, I remember the first time I ever went to my first publisher, Thomas Nelson, and they took me to a really nice dinner before and they said, we're going to bring all these teams together to talk to you. And I didn't have a very big platform. And I honestly, looking back, I think they probably still even wonder, like, why did we take that risk on her? And I remember just being so terrified that they thought I was something I wasn't, that they thought I could do something that I couldn't. And so I went in, and my husband said that night when I was talking to him on the phone, he said, Jennie, I want you to go in tomorrow and I want you to be the least fancy version of yourself. So at least then, if they still want you, like, you weren't pretending to be something you weren't. And that was freeing to me. But I still think I've always known that there is a fancy version of myself somewhere that I don't know, like maybe that one would serve me better. But I think people, you know, I also think I've been more at ease with myself and in ministry because I haven't accessed her very often. Like, but at the same time, I'm in such the major leagues of ministry and life and work that I don't know. I don't know that I have that tied up with a bow because I still sometimes wish I was more gifted. I don't totally relate to the one that overestimates her gifts.
Well, let's talk about your new book. Your new book,
Okay.
Get Out of Your Head, Stopping the Spiral of Toxic Thoughts. I think it is fascinating that a 7 has written a book called Get Out of Your Head, since you are in the thinking triad. You're very cerebral people, though you often, I think, look like heart people because you tend to be affectionate. You tend to be tactile. I know a lot of 7s who throw their arm around you. You know what I mean? They're just, people who make friends pretty darn fast, but you definitely are thinkers. And I want to talk about why a 7 would like to get out of their toxic thoughts a little bit, and sort of probe that in some ways. What do you think are some of the typical toxic thoughts of an Enneagram 7?
Oh, okay. I don't know what the book says, but I can tell you what mine are.
Okay.
And that's, some of them are kind of like 3s. Like, am I doing enough? Am I performing, at the level that matters? Like, is it working? Is it helpful? Is it meaning something? I constantly feel like time is ticking, and almost to the point of morbid thoughts, like just, oh my gosh, my life's going so fast. I can barely like be present with my kids like growing up because I just constantly feel like it's going too fast. And I think I have this fear of, I don't know, life slipping by. I think that's probably the biggest one that's the most regular in my mind that I think about almost every night and every day. And I call that, I know some people would go, that's really healthy to think about those things, but it's not when it pulls you out of the present. And it's not when it pulls you almost to an addiction of thinking ahead to the future. I mean, my kids would just say that's probably my biggest weakness with them is I'm, before I sent my son to college, I just despaired for like 2 whole years about it. And then he goes, and then I'm thinking, okay, well, after college, depending on the type of job you take, and he's, just started college. So I'm always like forecasting, and in that part, I sound like a 6 because I sound really fearful. And I think when it comes to my kids that my 6 can come out, I guess everybody can wing either way. Is that right?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes. And I would also say, though, that you are in the fear triad. You and 6s, I mean, this is hard for people to get, but I'll explain it. 7s are every bit as much as fearful as 6s. This is very important. 6s cope with anxiety and fear with pessimism, and 7s cope with fear with optimism.
My mind is blown. My mind is blown because I have fear. For sure I have fear. And I haven't known how to fit that in what I feel like is a pretty clear, I'm clearly a 7 and 8, both show up a lot. That is so interesting. So yes, I do have a lot of fear and insecurity, like I said. So I don't know. I think those spirals for me have been certainly and can be an anxiety, depending on how healthy I am. I've been through seasons of counseling to work on that, which aren't you proud of me?
Yes.
As a 7?
Oh, absolutely.
I don't ever crave it, but I do it and I show up for it. I know I need it sometimes. And I love that because that is what I would say I do. Almost probably, I'm so insecure because I'm like, people I love and know are going to listen to this and be like, yes, Jennie, duh. Like, yes, you obsess about the future. And yes, you are, so I do feel like this is so obvious to people that know me, but I do fixate on problems, but that's how I cope is optimism for sure.
Well, 7s like solving problems.
I do.
Yeah.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed part 1 of our 2-part series with Jennie Allen, Enneagram 7. Join us next week to catch part 2 of this interview. Don't forget Typology Live at the Balboa Theater in San Diego, March 21st. Go to typologypodcast.com and get your tickets now. Until next week, this is Anthony Skinner wishing you peace and love. See ya.